Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
CBS Sports presents the National Football League. Today, the NFC wildcard playoff game. The San Francisco 49ers against the New York Giants.
From the men who brought you basically a sports show, if your football fix wasn't met on Thursday night, it's time for an additional slice. This is basically a football show right now. Let's go!
Shotgun for Tim Tebow. Sets, throws, pass, caught. Demaryius Thomas out over the 45 midfield. Here we go. 40, 35, 20, 15, 10. Touchdown! Denver is over!
Here's Sproles. Sproles inside the 10, inside the 5, and the Chargers win the game.
Short drop, quick throw, left side, intercepted.
The right side! Touchdown!
Al Harris, game-winning touchdown! Green Bay Packers!
We've made it. It is officially playoff season, NFL and college football playoffs this weekend. We couldn't be more excited. I'm Zach, along with me is Greg. We're basically a football show, episode 19, I believe, of season 2. So we finished up the regular season in the NFLs yesterday.
Well, wait, back up a second. I just want to say something.
Yeah.
For the first time in the history of anything, a show is able to say it's playoff time in the NFL and in college football. Well, in Division I college football, I should say.
Well, it's been in Division I college football. There's been playoffs going on, Greg. Now we're in the FBS.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Division I, the big guys playoffs. Yeah. And
Division
it's nice.
1A, North Dakota State. The Jackrabbits.
The Jackrabbits. What a great name. All right. Anyway, yes, it is officially
Playoff season, just flat out playoff season, playoff week. We've got with New Year's coming up this week, we're going to have college football playoffs midweek, which will be great. It'll be fantastic. And then Saturday, Sunday, we get NFL playoffs. And, it's been an up and down NFL season. Let's be honest. It's not been the greatest NFL season in history. But the playoffs seem to make everything better. It'll wash away any of that, whether it's the off-the-field stuff, whether it's even the on-the-field kind of ups and downs that some of these teams have had. The fact that we have a 7-8-1 division winner, for God's sakes.
As I predicted.
Yes. But hey, we made it. So let's go through all the games on Sunday. No games Saturday, no games Monday. Everybody playing on Sunday to round out the Week 17 schedule. There are a lot of games that happen. Everybody plays. We're going to disregard some of the games that don't matter. All right?
Right.
We don't have time for that nonsense. We have real things to get
do we really need to talk about Giants-Washington?
No.
Not really, no.
No.
Or Giants-Giants didn't even play Washington. They played there you go. Yeah, Giants-Eagles, no need to even talk about it. That's how unimportant it was. I couldn't remember who played.
No, the teams, they don't have any consequence together. Jets-Dolphins, congratulations, Jets. You finished 4-12.
Yeah.
But let's go down. We'll start in the NFC because there was a lot of movement that could still go on there. A lot of win-and-in situation. A couple division title games over the NFC. We'll go down the seeds and kind of list them out that way. The first overall seed in the NFC belongs to the Seattle Seahawks after a 20-6 win over the St. Louis Rams. St. Louis, their defense was stellar in the first half of this game, even the first three quarters. They were up 6-0 at half, 6-6 after 3, but in the fourth quarter, Sean Hill threw an interception to a freaking defensive lineman 2 inches off the ground. And the Seahawks eventually turned that into a touchdown. Then the very next drive, they threw pick 6, and that was game over. Seahawks win 20-6. They get the number 1 seed. They get the NFC West and a home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs over the Rams.
But you know what, though? Watching that game, it gave me hope for anybody that goes in there because now the Rams have a pretty good defense, and they were able to shut down the Seahawks. But I think a team that can score points, I think they've got a shot against the Seahawks. Even from last week, I was thinking, you know what? this is over. They're back to what they were. But watching this Rams team play them pretty much dead even until those interceptions, I'm thinking all of a sudden they're not as invincible as I thought they were going to be. That's not to say that they won't run the table and go to the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't look at it now all of a sudden if I'm a Packers fan or a Lions or a Cowboys fan, whoever might end up out there. I think you got a shot this year, whereas last year I think you had no shot at beating them at home. This year you've got a shot. Maybe not a good shot, but you got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the game, they scored one offensive touchdown. And last week was clearly an aberration. Yep. They're not going to play as well as they did against the Cardinals that week. And the Cardinals' defense played probably as bad as it could have played, too. I mean, they gave up 596 yards, for God's sakes. But, it's the Seahawks are a beatable team. They have the home field advantage. They have the 12th man and all that garbage. But if you can play decent, their offense isn't scary to me. No. It's just not.
Not at all.
You can shut them down, and clearly, the defense is great, and the defense is playing at its Super Bowl level of last year. And that if they go on to the Super Bowl again, it will be because of that defense. It will not be because of Marshawn Lynch or Russell Wilson or anything like that. But congratulations to the Seahawks. We had them dead in the water back in week 7 or something like that.
Yeah, mid-season, we thought they were done.
Yeah, they looked like they were floundering. They couldn't get anything done. The defense wasn't great. The offense was going nowhere. Not that they're going too much better now, but we had them pegged no, you know what? Maybe they won't make the playoffs. And the Cardinals are soaring. Well, the Cardinals lost a couple quarterbacks. The Seahawks defense pulled together, and they end up 12-4 and first seed in the NFC.
You know, I just wonder, though, if the Rams had just not been a better offense, I think, would have been more in that game yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not
said it all year.
The Seattle team, again, I'm not taking a thing away from them, but I wouldn't sit there and just automatically think you're going to the Super Bowl because you've got home field advantage. And I was one of the people that thought that as recently as last week, that if they got home field, that was it. But after watching them yesterday, I think I tell you, the team that if I'm the Seahawks, the last team in the world I want to face right now is the Dallas Cowboys, because they've already beaten you once there, so that's not in their heads. And we'll see. The playoffs got a lot more interesting yesterday because of the way Seattle played against the Rams, I think.
Yep. And with the Seahawks winning, despite a valiant effort by Ryan Lindley, the Cardinals were up over the 49ers at one point in that game. But despite that, the Seahawks winning means the Cardinals were going to be the 5th seed no matter what. And so they locked down the 5th seed. No matter, they ended up losing to the 49ers in what was Jim Harbaugh's last game for the 49ers.
Yeah.
But hey, congratulations, Cardinals, you made the playoffs. And congratulations, you're at least getting an easy game in the first round, but we'll get to their opponents in a second.
Yeah, maybe an easy game, maybe not.
The number 2 seed in the NFC, well, Greg, it goes to your Green Bay Packers.
Yes, sir.
Just an awesome game up in Lambeau Field. NFC North title game. The Norris. The Lions, they hung with them. They actually showed some great fight in the middle portion of that game.
I think so, yeah, I agree.
But the Packers defense, they stepped up late, made a couple key stops. Aaron Rodgers comes back after injuring his calf, limping his way down the field, heroically leads the Packers to a victory, 30-20, and they're 12-4. They get the number 2 seed in a bye, and that's probably good for Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. He'll get him some time to heal up a little bit. And I just want to talk about the quote-unquote heroic return of Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
It was cool to see. I'm glad he came back. I didn't want the number 2 seed riding on Matt Flynn. I'll be the first to admit that. But let's not act like this was Willis Reed at the Garden in 1970. He had a pulled muscle. He went in. My guess is he got a Novocaine shot, came back out, and that was that. He played well. I mean, that's I'm not saying that he didn't play well or anything like that, but it was nice that he did that. But my understanding is that once you've pulled the muscle, you really can't hurt it that much worse. I mean, maybe tear it or whatever. But the Packers, I give this one to the defense. They played well. They did it when they had to. Kind of like they did against the Patriots. They didn't play great the whole game, but they stepped up when it was necessary. And the Lions, all credit to them, they fought. I mean, because they have not won there since sometime
1993, I think.
93, yeah. So, Lions, these are going to be 2 interesting teams to watch in the playoffs. But good job by the Packers. I wanted that number 1 seed. I was rooting for the Rams hard yesterday, but it's not to be. So,
yep.
Now I'm hoping the Cowboys can knock off the Seahawks if it turns out that way.
Well, something other interesting, I'm reading some notes here. Eddie Lacy in this game became the first Packers player with at least 1,500 yards from scrimmage in a season since
John Brockington?
2003, Amon Green.
Oh, Amon Green, of course, yeah. One of my favorites, actually, Amon
That's a little interesting note.
I have an Amon Green jersey, believe it or not. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. But, yeah. He got 1,000 yards rushing this year, too, right?
Yes.
All right, I might be wrong.
So.
I might be wrong on this. Was last year his rookie season, Eddie Lacy?
Yes.
I want to say he might be, and I might be wrong on this, but he might be the first Packer running back to go for 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons since John Brockington did it way back in the early 70s. But you'd have to check on that. He looked good yesterday. He was running the ball real well yesterday. I was very happy with that.
I'm reading some notes here. ESPN puts a bunch of these stats in their stories. Aaron Rodgers has the highest TD per interception, touchdown per interception at home ratio in NFL history. 5.45.
Really?
Yeah.
Way to go,
Or
Aaron.
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Matt Ryan, and Steve Young.
I tell you what, I don't want to sidetrack us too much, but these stats that the NFL games come up with, they crack me up. It's like, he's done this the most times on a game following a bye week on a Tuesday, blah, 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 blah. It's like I understand that you want to make statistics part of the game, but this isn't baseball where statistics are everything. So it's
Right.
kind
I was
of
going to
fun.
say, coming from the baseball guy, where it's, on the third Tuesday after he had pancakes at lunch, he has a .343 batting average against left-handers with their hats turned to the side.
See, but in baseball, there's nothing else to talk about when you're watching a baseball game because there's no action taking place. You got to do something, right? But no, it was Packers played well. I give credit to the Lions. They came in and they played really tough. A couple times I thought they were going to maybe pull away. I'll tell you this: when Rodgers went out and Flynn
that was their opportunity.
Yeah, but they didn't look bad, and I thought the offense played a little better for the Lions yesterday than it has of late. So they're looking good going into the playoffs. Both teams are going to be there, and who knows? They might end up meeting each other again somewhere down the road.
Well, you thought the Lions. There was a little question about the Lions playing dirty again, as after Aaron Rodgers already went out with the calf. Ndamukong Suh kind of fell backwards and stepped on his leg.
Right.
I thought it was a little just accidental. I don't know.
I do too. I don't think it was like the other guy last week or Sue when he did it a couple years ago.
Right.
But I do think that once he noticed he was standing on Aaron Rodgers' leg, he didn't make a real big effort to get off, is what I'm saying.
Well,
And this Lions team, they played good, disciplined football all season up until the past 2 weeks. And again, this wasn't as blatant a case as it was last week, but they've got to stay away from doing that kind of stuff because it only hurts them down the road. Because if they get in a playoff game and one of their players pulls a stunt like that again and gets suspended, it's going to hurt them. So they've got to get back into the disciplined defense they've been playing all season long, is my thought on it.
But the Lions finished 11-5. They kind of stumbled a little bit down the stretch, and again they lost their opportunity to win the division as they did last year. But they're better, and I think they have just as good a shot as anybody to knock off Dallas. In Dallas, because in the dome, they're used to playing at home in a dome, and both these teams have high-powered offenses. And Lions defense is a little bit better than the Cowboys, but we'll see how that plays out. Because as I mentioned, the Cowboys, with the first 2 teams in front of them winning, the Cowboys had no shot at moving up. They had no shot at moving down because they weren't going to fall behind the NFC South ever. So the Cowboys, they stay at the number 3 spot with a win over Washington. The only thing really to note here, DeMarco Murray, 20 rushes for 100 yards, became the Cowboys' single-season rushing leader, taking the mark away from Emmitt Smith.
Wow. I wonder how that went over with the Cowboys faithful, because Emmitt Smith's kind of a god with them. I'll tell you, this Cowboys team, I think they're legit. I do. They're 12-4.
8-0 on the road.
8-0 on the road, which is not easy to do in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I really do. I think their defense, again, they're very similar to the Green Bay Packers in this respect. Their defense isn't great like a Seattle or a Detroit or some of the other great defenses in the league, but they seem to be able to get the job done when they have to. And that can make a lot of difference. And this team can score points. If Murray and Romo are both clicking, you've got Des Bryant to throw to, they're going to be a real tough out for everybody. And if I had to pick a dark horse out of the NFC right now, it would be the Cowboys. I think that they're going to really surprise a lot of people this year. And that's hard for me to say.
Yeah. No, and they've really kind of established their game plan. They've established what they want to do. And in the past Cowboys teams haven't been able to do that. But now you have DeMarco Murray running at how he's running, setting up the run, which sets up the play-action pass. But Tony Romo was actually pretty good at executing. And then you get Des Bryant down the field. You get Jason Witten. You got a bunch of these new receivers. They have that Beasley guy.
Right.
The little white guy with the long blonde hair.
Yeah.
This almost looking guy running around.
Almost got his head torn off yesterday, but yeah.
Yeah. He's at SMU, too, which is kind of neat, playing for Dallas.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, they've established they're very balanced on offense. The defense is rounded into a form that can at least limit the other team and help the offense move forward. They're not the Seahawks defense. They're not forcing turnovers, not scoring their own points necessarily. But they're getting the stops. And that's really all you need from your defense. If your defense can get stops and your offense can be effective like the Cowboys have been, then you can be 12-4. You can be 8-0 on the road. And you can go forward into the playoffs. And they get a first-round game here. They're probably going to have to go on the road in the next round to either to Green Bay would be where they would go if they win.
Right.
And yeah, that's they're going to have to go into Lambeau. But you know what? I think the Cowboys game travels better now than it has in the past.
Absolutely.
If you can get DeMarco Murray running the ball effectively against the Packers in Lambeau, that changes the whole game. It shortens the game. It just lets you kind of control the game to more of your own range.
That's the key. That's really the key to beating the Packers at Lambeau. Is if you can establish a running game, that opens up their secondary. Is again, they're very similar to the Cowboys. They're kind of the same team in a lot of ways. Really good offense. Defense is respectable, but not unbeatable. And if you can get away, a balanced game can beat the Packers. It's as simple as that. Because if they don't know what's coming, like when they played, who did they play? Like the Lions. I mean, they knew it was mostly going to be passing, so they didn't have to. It was just if a balanced attack gives the Cowboys the best shot of beating them, and they're the team that's got that right now. I think of all the teams in the NFC playoffs, the Cowboys have the most balanced offensive attack.
Yes,
and that works well against the Green Bay Packers.
Yep, very balanced, and it'll serve them good going forward in a game against silver helmets and silver pants down in Dallas. It's not going to be the most visually interesting game in the world.
Well, the nice thing is that at least Detroit will match. Their colors will match, so that'll be nice.
That's true. But to round out the NFC playoff picture, we go down to the NFC South. Where no matter what happened, we were going to have a under 500 division winner. And it was a winning, you're in, losing, you're out. Winner goes home playoff game in Atlanta. And, the Panthers showed up.
Oh, did they ever?
The Falcons did not. Carolina ran the ball tremendously. I think they had 105 yards in the first quarter, 10-0 after the first, 24-3 at half, and added another 10 points there in the third quarter for a 34-3 demolition of the Falcons in the Georgia Dome. The Panthers win the game, win the NFC South, and become the very first team since realignment in 2002 to repeat as NFC South division champions.
Yeah, that surprised me. I knew it hadn't happened, but it didn't occur to me until I read it. I'm like, wow, they actually did. They did that, yeah. This team, we talked about them even when they were bad. We were saying, we knew they were going to regress this year. Mm-hmm. But they showed signs during the season. And you got to wonder if this is a team that kind of found their groove with maybe 5 weeks to go in the season, and they're maybe a little bit better than their record would indicate. I don't know. Maybe they are exactly what they look like, a 7-8-1 team. But the Falcons didn't even show up yesterday. I mean, I was astonished at how poorly they played in that game.
Can this game officially get rid of the Matty Ice nickname for Matt Ryan? People say it a lot, but he was terrible.
Oh, the whole team was awful. The defense couldn't do anything right. Well, the defense has been suspect all year with that team, but
right.
The one thing they seemed to be capable of doing was scoring points. And again, the Panthers are a solid defense, no doubt about it. But come on, you're at home, you're playing for the division championship, and you can't manage more than 3 points with that off. You've got Julio Jones, Matt Ryan's a pretty good quarterback. You've got Roddy White. You've got some receivers to work with, and you can't get more than 3 points against a team that's got 6 wins at that point in the game. Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
Yep. No, the Panthers, the defense has been playing immensely better over the last few weeks. And then if they can run the ball like they did on Sunday, they're probably going to beat the Cardinals because the Cardinals don't have a quarterback.
Right.
They don't have a running back. And the Cardinals' defense is going to play great, but that it's going to count all on the defense for the Cardinals to even beat the Panthers, which is sad. But I think if the Panthers do move by the Cardinals, they're going to have to go to either Seattle or Green Bay, depending on who wins the Lions Cowboys game. I don't want to say that they could beat either of those teams, though. I mean, if they establish the run and the defense plays well, maybe they could beat Seattle just by controlling the game. And maybe Cam Newton makes a couple big plays, but...
Well, didn't they play Seattle tough this year? It was in Carolina, but didn't they play them pretty tough way back at the beginning of the season?
They played in Carolina the last 2 years, actually.
Yeah.
And they've been tight games both times. I think 2 years ago it was 12-5, and I think this year it was like 14-6 or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, they were close.
But again, I'm not going to sit here and say that. Yeah, I like their chances if they get to the point where they can play Seattle. I mean, I think that if the Panthers end up making it to play against the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah,
because there are a couple teams in the NFC that might be able to beat Seattle, but the Panthers aren't one of them. I would love to be wrong about that. Believe me, I would love nothing more than to see the Seattle Seahawks go out early, but I just don't see the Panthers being the team to get it done.
And I think the Panthers would have less of a chance against Green Bay too.
Yeah,
in Lambeau especially. But hey, credit to the Panthers. Win the last 4 games. They're only 7-8-1, but hey, they win the division.
Yeah,
you can only play the games that are in front of you. Sort of thing.
One of the few predictions I got right this season. I said they were going to run the table, win all 4, and win the division. And I was half joking when I said that, but they actually did it.
Well, when we looked at the schedules, they had the easiest one of the bunch, and they knew that if they went through and the things that happened needed to happen, like the Falcons beating the Saints last week, that they would have just as good a shot as anybody to beat the Falcons at home in the last week, and they did.
Well, just real quick on the NFC South, what a disappointment the New Orleans Saints were this year.
Oh, man, I know. We both picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
It didn't, but it didn't seem like a dumb pick at the beginning of the season.
No, you know what? The thing is, like, Drew Brees even had a subpar season. Like, he still put up great numbers.
Right.
But it never felt like he was the Drew Brees that you've seen the last 5 years.
Even in the games they won, they didn't seem like a very good team, if that makes any sense. Even when they would score a lot of points, it just didn't seem – something seemed off all year with those guys.
The defense looks similar to the record worst defense that it was 2 years ago. It didn't look anything like the refurbished, reformed defense they had last year that made them a threat again. They didn't show up this year. The whole division didn't show up.
Yeah.
But it was just a historically bad division.
Well, on the boards they put, we all did our predictions at the beginning of the season. I had the Falcons going 11-5 this season. I think I had the Saints at 12-4, and they didn't come close. I think both teams combined didn't win 11 games. Well, maybe 11, but it's just a disappointment.
It's also interesting. The Falcons actually went 5-1 in the division too, and didn't win. Carolina went 4-2, but terrible.
Well, if it wasn't for that stupid tie, they might have been 8-8. But 7-8-1. I mean, if you got to have an under 500 team, I guess that's the best kind to have.
I mean, if it wasn't for the tie, they might be 7-9, and then God knows, do they win the tiebreaker against New Orleans? I don't know. But anyway, that rounds out the NFC playoff picture. But we'll stay in the NFC South for just one more second. Because, the last week of the season, it gives playoff teams, but it also syncs up draft picks. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were trying as hard as they could to give away that number 1 overall pick. They were up
20-7.
20-7 at halftime.
Yep.
And they were up 27 going into the fourth quarter. But thankfully for them, the New Orleans Saints pulled it together despite 3 interceptions from Drew Brees to put up 16 points in the fourth quarter in a 23-20 victory. And the Tampa Bay fans were probably all there booing the scores. Like, if you're there and you want your team to win even when you go, but if you have the chance to lock up the number 1 overall pick and then you go up 20 points, if you're a Buccaneers fan, you're at this game, are you just like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know. It would be tough because I don't know. It'd be hard for me to root against my team, but then again, if you lose, you get Marcus Mariota. So I think that would be. I honestly think if Mariota is as good as we think he's going to be, and the Buccaneers get him, I think they improve a great deal just on that alone because they were in a lot of games this year where the quarterback play just hurt them so badly that I don't know. But, yeah, I wanted my Titans to get it, but Buccaneers, that's a good one too. The Jets screwed up bad. They won again, so they're pretty much out of the picture now. Yeah,
I mean, who knows, but the Jets might be dumb enough to trade up for Jameis Winston or something.
Yeah, just because they're the Jets.
Yep. But on that note, here is the draft order before we go over to the AFC. Tampa Bay has the number 1 overall pick at 2-14. Tennessee's the number 2. Oakland is number 3. Jacksonville 4. Washington 5. The Jets with that win fall to 6. Chicago is at 7. St. Louis 8. Atlanta 9. And the New York Football Giants 10. Your Cleveland Browns, Greg, the 11th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with that. Who are they going to pick to screw that up? I have read so many articles. The Browns could have had Sammy Watkins and Teddy Bridgewater. And I look at that and I go, geez, just what a difference that would have made this season. What a difference. But
they might be a playoff team with that.
I mean, because even let's just say that Bridgewater doesn't start, but you still got Watkins out there.
Well, if Bridgewater doesn't start and Hoyer does exactly what he does all year, you eventually turn to Bridgewater at the end of the year, right?
Right. Because I think Bridgewater's easily been the best rookie quarterback of the bunch.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say. You don't know what Blake Bortles is going to be because he
doesn't have a whole lot around him.
He's out there playing by himself, and instead you end up with Johnny Manziel, who I don't know what his status is with his injury now. I don't know how bad it was or whatever, and nothing else. They picked a defensive back out, Gilbert, who, defensive backs are great, but come on, you could have had a game-changing wide receiver and a pretty good quarterback, and instead I really think that the ownership of the Browns let the fans influence them with that Manziel pick. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they just said, this guy's, he's got whatever it is. He's marketable, he's this, he's that, and he's the other thing, where, marketable's great, but winning's even greater.
Yeah. We'll move over to the AFC, and the number 1 seed, it was already locked up last week, the New England Patriots. And unfortunately for the Bills, if they had just won that Oakland game last week, they would have been right in position to make the playoffs. Because this is exactly what we thought would have happened, where the Patriots would have clinched everything, nothing to play for, and the Bills go in and beat them in Foxborough 17-9. And the Bills finished 9-7. Good for you, Bills, a 9-win season. But if they had just not jerked away that game against Buffalo or against Oakland, they'd be in the playoffs. This was a team that beat the Packers too, Yep. And it's just too bad that the Bills fall out of it. But the Patriots are your number 1 overall seed.
Well, just really quick. The Oakland Raiders finished 3-13. 2 of those wins screwed 2 teams out of the playoffs. Kansas City lost a game they shouldn't have lost to the Raiders, and Buffalo.
Yeah.
If both those teams, if they win, it's a completely different playoff picture. But we warned the Chiefs that week. We're like, man, you can't go in there and not beat these guys. It can kill you, and it turned out to kill them. Same with the Bills. You got to beat the teams you got to beat, and you can't let that happen. But still a good season by the Bills.
Yeah,
could have been better. Could have been a playoff team.
Yeah, they could have been a playoff team. They could have broken up the monotony that is the AFC playoff picture. But it's the same teams every week, and we'll get through them. But nobody knew. You know who all these teams are.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the Denver Broncos. They clinched a first round. They could have still lost the bye, but they managed to beat out the Raiders, as we just mentioned, who were bad. They curb stomped them, 47-14, all over them. They really wanted that bye, and they got it. So congratulations to the Broncos. But for the number 3 seed, we go to the NFC North AFC North, title game in Pittsburgh, Heinz Field. Steelers and Bengals. The Bengals, they mustered all they could to finally win a primetime game last week and clinch a playoff spot. Could they do it again, or would they crumble under the primetime lights? Well, they crumbled. It was actually a pretty tight game for most of it, but the Steelers outlast them. Antonio Brown with a huge day.
Yes.
7 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown receiving. He also threw in a punt return for touchdown. And the Steelers claim the AFC North title. 27-17. They get the number 3 seed, and the Bengals, they fall to the number 5 seed and will play at Indianapolis.
I tell you, the Steelers team is a lot like the Cowboys in the NFC. This is a team that I don't care who you are. I don't want to play these guys right now. Mm-hmm. They're just. It seems like they just have this thing about them. I don't think that they realize they're not supposed to be this good. But Brown he's a great player. Le'Veon Bell didn't have a great game yesterday, but he's capable of it.
Yeah, he got a little injured too.
And Roethlisberger is a good quarterback. And the defense, like the Packers, like the Cowboys, not great, but doing just enough to get by. And I like the Steelers team a lot. I think if you're going to pick a dark horse in the AFC outside of the terrific two there with New England and Denver, I like the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to make some noise in this thing.
Ben Roethlisberger is playing probably as good as he's played in a regular season in terms of just passing yards, in terms of just passing.
Right.
And he's had great regular seasons. They went 13-3 a couple times, But just an individual season for him, I think he's playing probably his best as a pure passer as he has in his years in the NFL. But and that's leading them forward. He has the receivers with Antonio Brown. Le'Veon Bell has been a great compliment on the ground, and they've been putting up points. And you're right. I think they're going to play Baltimore in the first round. We'll talk about how Baltimore got there. But the Steelers-Ravens games, for whatever reason, they're always close, and they shouldn't be. But I think this year, didn't the Steelers blow out the Ravens in Pittsburgh? I believe they did. I believe that was like a 30-point win. There was a bunch of fights at the end.
The schedule really quick here. Let's see. Baltimore.
43-23.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that was right after they put up 6 touchdowns on the Colts.
That was that stretch where okay. Yeah.
Right, when they were playing out of their minds. So they can do that again. And, if they go into Denver and they can get revenge for the Tebow game, I think that's a team that could beat Peyton Manning. In Denver.
Well, and not only that, but Peyton Manning's hurt or something, I think.
Yeah, he's not playing great.
Yeah, and that's a problem too. But the Ravens beat the Steelers back in week 2, 26-6. But at this point in the season, you can't really look back at the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season and that really doesn't count for anything because teams are so different back then. Yeah. But this Steelers team, I like them a lot. I mean, there are people out there saying we could see another Dallas-Pittsburgh Super Bowl. I don't know if I'm ready to say that we will see that, but it's certainly a possibility at this point. I like this team a lot. They're going to make some noise.
They are indeed. The number 4 seed, as I mentioned, is the Indianapolis Colts. They rebounded with a win over Tennessee. Matt Hasselbeck actually threw a touchdown in this game, believe it or not.
Matt Hasselbeck is still playing in the NFL.
Yeah, he's the Colts.
I know. It just floors me.
Sean Hill's still playing in the NFL, for God's sakes.
Yeah, we thought he was a different Sean Hill. Turns out it's the same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah.
The Bengals, as I said, are the 5 seed. Now the 6th seed. Going into the day, the Chargers had the pole position. They were win and they're in. That's all they had to do. They just had to go to Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs, they had a shot too. If everybody else in front of them had lost, they would have made it in. So they still had everything to play for. And they got one heck of a day by Justin Houston. 4 sacks for the Chiefs. Ends up with 22 on the season. He was the leading sack artist, I guess if you want to put it, in the NFL this year. And the other thing with the Chargers going into this game, Alex Smith was injured.
Yeah.
Alex Smith had a lacerated spleen.
They lost to Chase Daniel.
Chase Daniel was the starting quarterback. And you know what, though? The Chargers almost lost to Chase Daniel last year in San Diego, remember? It was Chase Daniel and Niles Davis in Week 17 that went down into San Diego, took them to overtime, botched a game-winning kick at the very end of regulation.
We should just note, too, that the Chiefs went the entire season without a touchdown to a wide receiver.
Yes. Well, they almost had it.
Almost had it.
They got Dwayne Bowe, and he got tackled at the 1-yard line. But they managed to pull off the miracle and go a full season without a touchdown to a wide receiver. And the Chargers, the defense was great for the Chiefs, only holding them to 7 points. But, man, the Chargers seem to do that. They get in position to do great things, and then they don't do great things. They go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals last year after kind of falling ass backwards into the playoffs. But then the next week they go into Denver and then don't show up.
Every year we have a team that it's simple for them. Win and you're in, and it seems like every year we might have a few win and you're in teams, but every year it seems like one team you look at and you go, this should be an easy win for them to get in, because the Chiefs had to have like 30 different things go their way to even make the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, they're playing, but they're playing for a long shot. The Chargers have a very simple assignment: win the game, you're in the playoffs, and they couldn't pull it. They only made it 7 points. Yep. I just don't know how. It just floors me because they were playing good football, and then all of a sudden they can't manage more than 7 points against a Chiefs team that's being led by Chase Daniel. I don't get it.
Yep. So the Chargers lose, and into their place, the next man up is the Baltimore Ravens. They, after a hard-fought game, the Browns were up 10-3 going into the fourth quarter. Baltimore gets 17 points in the fourth quarter for a 20-10 win over the Cleveland Browns. And they get the number 6 seed, and again, it's the same teams,
right,
as it always is in the AFC playoffs. And we're going to get another Ravens-Steelers game that we don't really need to see.
Yeah.
But Joe Flacco, 312, 2 touchdowns, leads the Ravens back into the playoffs.
Well, what is it I wanted to say about this game? Oh, Connor Shaw, the quarterback for the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Practice squad player. My girlfriend told me this. I can't verify it to be – I'm sure it's probably true, but they did not have a picture to use of Connor Shaw in a Browns jersey. They had to show him in a picture wearing his South Carolina jersey. So that's where the Cleveland Browns ended up in the quarterback situation.
That Connor Shaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. South Carolina. I remember.
Yep.
Okay.
So
is Connor Shaw the future in Cleveland, Greg?
It's funny. He did something yesterday, and one of the announcers said, maybe Cleveland's got their quarterback, and it's Connor Shaw. And I went, oh, my God. Really? But it's just what a season for the Browns. They were 7-5 at one point, and in the playoff race, and ended up 7-9, which is about
7-9. They could have been NFC South champions.
Yeah. I guess the way to look at it is that I had them going 1-15 this year, so a 7-win season is pretty good. But
yeah.
And of course, that was the end of the great Cleveland Browns uniforms that some of us know and love. So at least they went out on a high note with that. They didn't wear those horrible brown pants.
They wore your favorite all-white combo.
Well, no, my favorite all-white combo is actually Kansas City's, but still.
Well, yeah, but you love the all-white jerseys.
Yeah, they're cool. I like them, but yeah, typical Cleveland Browns season, right in the middle of it, and then the next thing you know, they're on a 4-game losing streak, and that's that. See you later. Wait till next year again.
The only other thing to mention, the AFC, is that's the end of the picture. The Texans, they had their shot to get in. If Baltimore had lost, they go out and win 23-17 over the Jaguars. But J.J. Watt, man.
Holy cow.
3 sacks in this game. Another one of those sacks for a safety. He finishes with, I think, 20.5 on the season.
Right.
He's the only player in NFL history to have 3 receiving touchdowns, 1 interception touchdown, and 1 fumble recovery touchdown in a season. He has all those sacks. He forced the safety. He almost single-handedly willed the Texans, who were down to Chase Keenum at quarterback, into the playoffs. A lot of people are going to see Aaron Rodgers with his heroic, leading to the NFC North title with, limping down the field. But if there was ever a year for a defensive player to win the MVP again, it would be J.J. Watt, and it would be this year. He has been flat-out fantastic, and the rest of his competitors for the MVP have been kind of so-so. He has been consistent, and he's been consistently great all season.
If I had a vote, I would vote for J.J. Watt. Like we talked about before we started the show, Aaron Rodgers, he's one of the best quarterbacks, maybe the best quarterback in the game right now. Mm-hmm. But he's also had some pretty bad games across the season. I don't know that you can say that about J.J. Watt. And this Texans team was 2-14 last year. And they went through how many quarterbacks this season? So you had Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Mallett,
Tom Savage,
Case Keenum, and they still managed a 9-win season. This guy, it's in my book, and yeah, they didn't make the playoffs. I think if the Texans had snuck into the playoffs, he probably wins it. But the voters are going to look at it, and it's going to be hard to justify giving the MVP to a guy that played on a team that didn't make the playoffs. But in my book, he's the most valuable player in football by far and away. I don't think it's even close.
After the game, they asked Andre Johnson if J.J. Watt was an MVP, and they showed the video of him. He has this look on his face as soon as the guy starts asking the question. He's like, "I'm mad that you even have to ask me that question, man. If J.J. Watt does not win the MVP, then the NFL is just, I don't even know." And then just walked off.
Well, because I think the thing is so weighted towards quarterbacks.
Right.
It's almost unfair because it's just the quarterback's the most valuable player on the field all the time if he's good.
He's the most important player on the field.
Most important, yeah. But that's the thing. If most valuable, yeah, you probably got to go with the quarterback. But if it's just the best player in the NFL, it's J.J. Watt, no question, in my book. And I would vote for him as MVP. And I'm hoping that maybe, I think in that same Bill Barnwell article that I read, he talked about how that maybe the writers are a little fatigued with giving it to a quarterback every year, and that might help. But it'll be curious to see. I think he should at least be a serious vote getter, if not the winner of it.
I'm actually surprised at how Tom Brady's kind of fallen out of the MVP discussion. Because all of a sudden, like after Sunday's game, all I read was, well, it's Aaron Rodgers for J.J. Watt for MVP. And I was like, really? Wasn't Tom Brady up there with the rest of them? And he's had a quiet season. I mean, the top guys in the AFC have had a quiet season. Peyton Manning kind of so-so, but they're still winning games. It's like, okay, well, the Broncos are winning. Great. And then there was a little discussion about Tom Brady early in the year, like, oh, is he done? And then, of course he's not done, and he runs off those games. It's like, okay, yeah, Tom Brady, great. You could probably say the same about Aaron Rodgers, but he has had the bad games.
Right.
But you look back, he has the signature moments like the fake spike against Miami, this game here against Detroit, the relax thing from earlier in the year.
Those eviscerations he had a couple weeks in a row when they were like hanging 40 and 50 points on teams. Yeah.
Yeah. He has the punctuations, but I think if you're just going to award the MVP for a simple just greatness of a season, probably the best defensive season, probably, best season by an individual player you've seen in a long time. Give it to J.J. Watt. Yeah. You know what? Give him Offensive Player of the Year, too, because he has 3 he's a defensive end, and he has 3 touchdown catches.
Right.
And there weren't wide open catches.
No.
He had to make catches.
Yeah.
So I would give it to him. If it was me, he's done everything you want him to do. What do you want him to do next? Return kicks? You want him to kick punts? What do you want from J.J. Watt?
Well, and the thing about him, too, is like on his interception return and his fumble return, it wasn't like he was rumbling, bumbling, soloing. He was out running guys.
Pulling away.
Yeah. I mean, this guy can flat out play, man.
And seeing him twice in my own division, despite the Texans, I wasn't ever afraid of the Texans' offense. The only reason I was ever afraid the Colts would lose those games to the Texans was because of J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
He could single-handedly shut down an offense, getting in the backfield, stopping runs, sacking quarterbacks, disrupting quarterbacks at the very least. And on the other side of it, he could pull in his own touchdowns if he wanted to, too. He could put up his own points and single-handedly lead the Texans in. So 9-7, just on the outside of the playoffs, and the only reason they were there is because of J.J. Watt. I think if it was apropos to give it to a defensive player ever, it'd be him, and it'd be this year.
Well, we can officially.
I hope the voters see that way too.
We can officially make him basically a football show MVP. That we're allowed to do. So that he is our MVP of the season.
He's the BAFS MVP.
Yeah, we'll send him a letter or something. Congratulations.
BAFS MVP J.J. Watt. A lot of initials there.
Yeah, a lot.
But just to end off the season and to congratulate him such a year, J.J. Watt. For NFL MVP. But that's the NFL regular season ending. We move forward to the playoffs and 4 games in the divisional round, or wild card round, excuse me. ESPN finally gets a wild card game this year, and they get awarded with the worst wild card game. And we all knew this was going to be the early game on Saturday. Cardinals-Panthers, 4:20 Eastern. The Panthers open up as 4.5-point favorites over the visiting Cardinals.
It's such a shame. This Cardinals team looks so good with Carson Palmer. Where I think they probably were a legitimate Super Bowl contender when Palmer was quarterbacking them. And to see a team that started out so great, it's just got to be brutal for Cardinals fans to see their season just fall apart like this. I mean, they ended up 11-5. They're in the playoffs. They have no hope.
Yeah, it's not like you can even be mad at them for like, oh, God, you started sucking. You're playing terrible.
It's not their fault.
Yeah, you really want to get mad at the third-string quarterback. It's not his fault. The Cardinals are only doing what they can do, and that's what they got, unfortunately.
The thing, too, with the practice squad player, I mean, a lot of people, I think, would use the logic, well, at least he knows the system and all that. But if you think about it, the practice squad quarterback spends most of his season running the opposing offense.
Right.
So he doesn't get a lot of reps with the actual offense. But
right. He doesn't get reps with the first team. He doesn't even get reps with the second team. He's on the other side doing, ghost plays.
Exactly. It's just a shame to see that such a great season for them kind of just fall apart the way it has.
Yeah. They got to count on their defense. They got to hope to stop the Panthers' running game.
And they've got to hope Ryan Lindley can figure out how to play the quarterback position between now and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 2 touchdown passes.
And he threw 3 interceptions.
He threw 2 touchdown passes, though. Come on. Give him some credit. But if the defense can force some turnovers and maybe score some points of their own, then the Cardinals will be in this thing only to go lose in Lambeau Field or Seattle the week after that.
Right.
But hey, it's on you, Cardinals defense. Patrick Peterson, Calais Campbell, it's you guys.
Well, yeah, we talk about the quarterback position a lot with the Cardinals too, but another thing that hurt them was losing Ellington, who was a pretty decent running back.
Run.
Yeah,
right.
You've taken away pretty much your entire offense. You're down to your fourth quarterback with no running game. What are you going to do?
Got to hope for some defensive excellence.
Yeah, some serious defensive excellence. Stranger things have happened, but
good luck.
Yeah.
But and the Panthers, if they can run the ball and play defense like they did last week, they'll have no problem. If the defense can force turnovers like they did, despite me playing down Matt Ryan's still a pretty decent quarterback. He's not Matty Ice. He's not Phil Simms during the game was like, I don't care what anybody says. Matt Ryan, and I don't like using this word in this league, Matt Ryan is an elite NFL quarterback. And I was like, Phil, no, he's not. What has he done? What has he done to earn that?
He's pretty good, but he's not elite. Yeah.
Like, there was the debate with elite when it came to, like, Eli Manning and Joe Flacco, but it's because those guys have actually won things.
Yeah, they have Super Bowl rings.
Right. Matt Ryan has only been to one NFC title game and choked it away.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But good luck to the Panthers, 7-8-1. It's going to be a repeat of or reverse of the Seattle-New Orleans thing from a couple years ago. A NFC South team versus an NFC West team. One's under 500. One has 11 wins. And it's probably going to flip.
But the thing this time is that if the Panthers win, it won't be a surprise like it was when Seattle pulled it off.
It won't be like Marshawn Lynch going beast mode and having the thing make an earthquake when he ran the ball and whatever. No,
yeah,
it's going to be just because the Cardinals simply don't have anything to throw at them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Saturday night game is Ravens at the Steelers.
Yeah.
The third time this year and the 500th time in the last 10 years. I'm like, this is the greatest rivalry in the modern NFL. I don't care anymore, man.
Is it really that great a rivalry?
I'm so out by it.
Yeah.
No, it's because they always play physical and the games are always tight and they hate each other and all that's true. But I've seen this game so many times.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not interesting anymore.
I mean, it would be much more interesting if it were the Chargers or the Chiefs or the Texans in this spot. But here we are with the Ravens again.
Yeah.
And you look at that team, it's like they never seemed that great.
No.
Even the year they won the Super Bowl, they weren't that great. It's like you look at them and you go, but here they are again every year. You got to give credit to John Harbaugh and to the front office and all that because they put a competitive team on the field every year. But man, they're boring.
Yeah,
that's
true.
I like the Steelers. I think the Steelers take that one.
I think like you said, the Steelers are playing as hot as anybody. The offense is rolling right now. They're 3.5-point favorites. I think they'll probably win by more than that. I would probably actually take Pittsburgh straight out in that game.
Yeah.
But then again, the games are always tight because I don't know that they intentionally make them close games. I don't even know what it is. But the Steelers did blow them out, like I said earlier this year, so I don't expect to see a 20-point blowout again, but I could see the Steelers winning by 10 points, probably, because the defense is playing great, and all you have to do is not let Joe Flacco throw over your head, and you're fine.
Yep, exactly.
But you tell that to guys all the time, and it still happens.
Yeah.
So anyway. On to Sunday's game. The early game on Sunday is the Bengals at the Colts. The Bengals early this year went into Indianapolis and got shut out by the Colts. I think it was 27-0 in that game. The Colts open as 4.5-point favorites over the visiting Bengals.
I like the Colts. They're at home, and it's another. It's not exactly a primetime game for the Bengals, but it's a big game.
This was the best case scenario for the Colts.
Yeah.
If the Bengals had beat the Steelers and the Steelers go to Indianapolis, there's no way. I don't pick the Colts in that game. If the Ravens had somehow jumped up into the 5 seed, no way. But this was best case scenario for Indy. They already beat Cincinnati. They know they can beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati likes to crumble when it comes to playoff time, especially Andy Dalton. And Andrew Luck steps up in big moments. And I think this is another chance for them to do that. I don't see them going much farther than the next round, even if they do beat the Bengals. Because whether they go to Indianapolis or New England or Denver, they lost in Denver this year. They got beat down in New England last year in the playoffs and this year in the regular season. I don't see that changing, but I think they could still win this game.
Yeah,
4.5 points. I would probably say it's probably going to be a closer game than a 27-0 shutout. I think the Bengals will come to play. A.J. Green's a little iffy when it comes to his health, and that will definitely hurt the Bengals passing game. But I like Andy Luck and the Colts because I'm a homer.
I like Luck and the Colts because they're at home. So I'm not exactly a homer, but home is coming into the equation. Yeah, I can't figure out this Bengals team.
Yeah,
I watch them and I don't look at them and go, well, that team's 10 wins good, but here they are, 10-5-1, and I think the Colts, they have a puncher's chance against either one of those teams, the Patriots or the Broncos. But you're right, and unless they can put together. If they can play one of those perfect games like we saw last year when they went out to San Francisco and beat them, or when they beat Seattle, yeah, maybe, but that's what it's going to take.
Yep.
But I do think they get past the first round. I think that they win this game against the Bengals.
And then in the second game of Sunday, the best game of the weekend easily, I think, is Lions at the Cowboys. Cowboys open up as 7-point favorites over Detroit. I got to think that that's just because the Cowboys are a popular team, not because they would actually beat the Lions by 7 points.
Well, I don't know. The Lions' offense has potential to be explosive, but they haven't really shown a lot of it.
Whereas
so
the
far.
Cowboys have been very explosive over the last few weeks. That's true.
Yeah, and it's a playoff game, and
both teams have silver helmets. Both teams have shades of silver pants.
But we also have this to consider too. This is a playoff game. And this is a game that everyone's expecting the Cowboys to do well in, so we just might see the interception that ends Dallas' season in this game, but I don't think it'll happen. I think the Cowboys win.
I think the Cowboys win too. I think they're just too balanced, and the Lions have just as good of a balanced offense if Joik Bell can get going, but and their defense is better. This is just going to be a good game. I think of all the games, it's probably going to be the tightest, most competitive of the four. I want to give it to the Lions. I'd love to see them do well. But this Cowboys team is they've impressed me too much this year. And I think they got one more win in them, and then we'll see what they can do in Green Bay next week. Let's do some revised playoff picks. Our playoff picks earlier in the year were not great. I think we both had Denver making the Super Bowl, though. So
yes,
that's still in play.
Yep.
But we'll redo them. So we picked the Panthers over the Cardinals. Panthers would then go on to Seattle. I think we could both say easily the Seattle Panthers, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
Yep.
And then you have the Cowboys going to Lambeau Field and the Packers. I got to go with the Pack.
Yep, absolutely.
There too.
Packers.
So then you get the Packers going to Seattle, where they got beat down in week 1 this year, where they lost to Fail Mary a couple of years ago.
The last 3 times they've played there, they've lost, and I think 2 of those 3 times they've gotten beat up pretty bad.
But here's the thing. I still don't see anything in the Seattle defense or offense that scares me. Whereas I know Aaron Rodgers and the Packers can put up points. I'm going to go with the Pack.
I like your pick, but I think you're crazy. I'm going with the Seahawks.
Okay. In the AFC, we have the Steelers beating the Ravens. So the Steelers would move on to Denver to play the Broncos.
I'm liking the Steelers in that one.
I'm not going to waver from my preseason pick. I'm still going to go with the Broncos over the Steelers there. We both have the Colts beating the Bengals, right?
Yep.
Colts going to New England. I would love for me to be completely wrong, of course, but I think the Colts get beat down by at least 2 touchdowns in New England.
Boy, I really want to pick the Colts in an upset there.
Yeah, so would I.
I'm going to do it. I think the Colts will put together one of those games like we saw them do last year, and I think they beat the New England Patriots.
All right. You have more faith than I.
It's just maybe it's just hope. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I'm going with the Colts in that one.
All right. So my AFC Championship game, I have Patriots and Broncos like it was last year. Like I think we picked at the beginning of the year too. And we said all year that home field advantage was going to mean a lot in this game.
Yep.
I don't want to pick the Patriots. I think if it comes down to those two against each other, I have to go with the Patriots right now. I want to stick with my preseason pick of the Broncos because, obviously I want Peyton to go win a Super Bowl, but he hasn't looked great this year, and the Patriots are just, chugging along. Well-oiled machine.
Just like they always do.
Yeah. So I would get the Pats going to the Super Bowl against the Packers, which is what a lot of people picked back in week 12 or whatever it was.
Right.
You have the Steelers and the Colts. Who do you got coming out of that one?
They would play that where? At Pittsburgh?
At Pittsburgh.
I'm taking the Steelers.
Yep. So my Super Bowl, Pats Packers. Your Super Bowl, Steelers Seahawks.
A rematch of the.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
The questionable officiating game. I'll be kind about it. I won't call it a fix. I'll just call it a questionably officiated game.
9 years later. That'd be interesting, too.
Yeah. I've got the Seahawks as my Super Bowl winner, I guess.
Repeat champs?
Repeat champs, yep.
I've got, the Patriots, will be going back, as Bill Simmons has said all year, the scene of the crime in Glendale. And I think they lose again because the Patriots don't deserve any more Super Bowl wins. I hope Tom Brady has a losing record in Super Bowls.
I don't see them as a Super Bowl winning team this year. I mean, they're pretty good, but that Seattle defense would have no trouble shutting them down. No trouble at all.
So I'm gonna pick the Pack as the Super Bowl champs.
Hey, all right. I get my shareholders ring. I'm cool with that.
All right, that's our previews. We'll see how it goes out. We're probably wrong.
What are the odds?
Wrong. When it comes to the NFL, we're very wrong about things.
Right.
To close out the NFL, though, today, as we record, is Black Monday in the NFL.
Yep.
Guys getting fired left and right. It started last night when Jim Harbaugh and the 49ers decided to mutually part ways, which is garbage. It's, hey, guys, I'm going to leave for Michigan. Well, good, because we were going to fire you anyway.
Right.
That's what mutually parting ways means.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't too unexpected. The Bears have cleaned house. They fired their GM and coach, Mark Trestman. Mike Smith gets canned down in Atlanta. I didn't expect that. You thought it was a little bit more plausible.
Here's what I think would have happened. Had they made the playoffs, he probably gets one more year.
Yeah.
But with that disaster yesterday, and you combine that with him basically handing the Cleveland Browns a game a few weeks back, it was over. And then we've got Rex Ryan gone.
Rex Ryan and the GM fired in New York with the Jets. Oakland has yet to announce Tony Sparano.
Once he took over, though, hadn't they played pretty good football since then?
They played better, but you saw what he did in Miami. I don't think he's a quality head coach. I don't think he's a guy that you want to lead you out of a dumpster.
Yeah, that's true. The one thing Oakland needs to think about, that's not an appealing job right now. If you've got a guy that's willing to stay there and do it, you might want to hang on to him.
Well, but is it? I think they're finally starting to turn a corner. And now that they have the number 3 pick, they have another thing to use as a building block. Maybe stick with them for another year just to kind of wade through it. And then once you finally feel that you're in position to make a leap forward, then you get a new guy in there to take you to that next step forward.
You never know what's going to be available next year either.
Yeah. How'd you like the first season of The Pettin' Zoo? I
thought he did a really great job, honestly. Now, granted, they were a mirage and they looked like they were better than they were, but I think realistically, a 7-9 season is about all you could expect out of the talent they had on that team. So I thought he did a good job. I have no problem with them keeping him around. He did way better than I thought he would.
But that wraps up the NFL regular season. We preview the first week of the playoffs. But did I just say playoffs, Greg? I think we have some other playoffs to talk about coming this Wednesday. Or this Thursday, I should say. So we move on to college, and we have playoffs to talk about in college, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, your national semifinals. In the first national semifinal, the number 2 Oregon Ducks and Heisman winner Marcus Mariota take on the number 3 Florida State Seminoles and former Heisman Trophy winner Jameis Winston.
We've talked all season about Florida State.
Yes.
Not being terribly impressive.
No.
Do you think that they pull off another one of their where they hang with it and win this game, or does Oregon finally expose these guys?
No. If Florida State plays like they have in those hang-around games where they've turned the ball over a lot,
yeah,
Oregon is going to punish them.
Oh, yeah.
If you give Oregon extra chances with the football, they're going to use them, and they're going to score. So Florida State has to play a mistake-free football game, or they're very much in danger of getting trounced. Now, straight up, I think that they could probably score with each other. I think Oregon's defense is pretty fast and could probably, compete with the speed Florida State has on offense. But if Florida State turns the ball over, then it's Oregon in like at least by 2 touchdowns. But if Florida State can play mistake free, it'll be close. I still have Oregon pulling it out. Florida State's going to have to really do something impressive, I think, to knock off the Ducks in Pasadena.
Here's what I think. I think that much like the Michigan State game that Oregon played earlier this year, I think it might be close for a half. Mm-hmm. But here's where Oregon really can hurt you is that they are so fast and that offense is so fast-paced, they wear you out. And if you can't hang with them in the second half, they are going to blow past you by a whole lot of points. And I think that's how we're going to see this one play out. I think Oregon wins this game. It'll be tight in the first half, but they're going to run away with it in the second half, and they cruise to an easy win.
I agree. I'd go with the Ducks as well. And then the All-State Sugar Bowl, the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide taking on your number 4, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Wow.
Greg, I know this is going to be tough for you. Do you go with your heart and your Ohio State Buckeyes, or do you likely go with your head and an Alabama rollover?
Well, here's the thing. I think if I had to put money on it, I would bet Alabama. I don't think it's going to be the blowout everybody thinks it's going to be. I think it's going to be close. I'm not saying it's going to be like a 3-point win for Alabama, but don't expect a 55-3 game. I don't think that's going to happen. And I will say this, too. If the team that played Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game shows up and plays like they did in that game, the Ohio State will beat Alabama.
But you don't think that Nick Saban is sitting there watching every second of that game at least 700 times?
Oh, probably.
And you don't think that he's seen Urban Meyer a fair share in his time?
Yeah.
But on the other side, Urban Meyer has seen Nick Saban a fair share of his time. I don't know exactly what the record was with Florida versus Alabama during those years. But,
I don't either.
They were always close.
What it comes down to really at the end of the day is that you've got two great coaches. Okay, You've got two good programs, but Alabama's just got more talent across the board. Yep. And that's the biggest difference. They're going to be faster. They're going to be bigger. And that's what's going to hurt Ohio State. I don't know that the Ohio State defense, it's been suspect at times during the season. I don't think they're fast enough to keep up with Alabama. I think they'll score points on Alabama, but I don't think they can hang with them as far as keeping Alabama off the scoreboard, and that's going to be the difference. The Crimson Tide wins in a game that, while not close by like a touchdown or less, it's still going to be closer than people think it's going to be. So I like the Tide in that one, as much as it pains me to say it.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's best shot is if they can use their offense as a good defense. And what I mean by that is by running the ball and keeping the ball out of Alabama's hands. They can't make any turnovers in this game, just as much the same way Florida State can against Oregon. Ohio State has to hold on to the football, and they have to kill clock.
Yeah,
and just shorten the game, and that will keep them within a reasonable distance, striking distance of Alabama. If they do start to get a score ahead of them, Ohio State could still be in position to maybe turn it around with a turnover of their own. But if things go as they should, I would pick Alabama too. Probably not a blowout either. I think Ohio State is good enough, and I trust Urban Meyer enough as a head coach to have them ready to play. Even with Cardell Jones as the quarterback, I don't think that's as big of an issue, especially seeing what he did to Wisconsin.
Well, yeah,
and of course, he has after they had finals, he hasn't had to play school for a whole month.
Well, yeah,
so he's been able to play football.
Well, see, and the thing about Cardell Jones that I really like is he has his priorities straight.
Yes,
he's not there to get an education. He's there to play football. Yeah. But it's just again, if Ohio State wins, I think a lot of people are going to see it as a really huge upset, and it may very well be. But we've seen you can score on Alabama this year. It's not like they used to with that really super dominant defense. You can score points on them. I'm with you, though. If Ohio State tries to get in a shooting match with Alabama, they're not going to be able to keep up. They've got to control the ball, score when they can, and just give limit Alabama to as few offensive possessions as they can.
Yeah, because you know that they could just throw into Amari Cooper and he could break it.
Exactly. So Ohio State can win this game, but it's going to take pretty much the perfect football game for them to do it, and I just don't know they've got the talent to pull it off.
Yeah, so I'm picking Oregon. You're picking Oregon. Oh, Alabama, Ohio State. I think we're both picking Alabama.
Both picking Alabama, right? Yep.
So we're going to have 1 versus 2 in Dallas a week later. Man, I don't know what to do with that game.
Alabama.
You think so?
No, you know what? No, I don't because
this is different. It's different than the regular bowl games because they're only going to have the week to prepare.
Right.
It's not the full month of preparation like you see Nick Saban. It's the full month and just demolishes a team. Mm-hmm. It's going to be 1 week, and yeah, of course, I'm sure that all these teams have contingency plans made up for whoever they would have to play in the next week, but it's going to be a different ball game.
And I'll tell you something too. Oregon's defense has been suspect at times this year. but they dominated a pretty good Arizona offense in the Pac-12 championship game. Mm-hmm. The thing that impressed me the most about their performance was the defense in that game, because Arizona can score. You saw it. And they shut them down. So this is Oregon's best shot of the times they've had a run at the national championship. I think this is the best team they've had to go into it with. And Marcus Mariota's not Dennis Dixon. He can if they can't do a lot of the read option stuff that Oregon does, he can also drop back and just pass. So that might be a big difference. So you know what? I like the Ducks in that one. I'm going to take the Ducks to win it all. Finally punch that ticket and get it done.
I'm going to pick Oregon too. And maybe it's a little biased against Alabama, but I just really like what I've seen out of Marcus Mariota. I really like what I've seen out of this whole Oregon team this year, and I think that this is a different team for once, and they'll take it to Alabama.
But what? Let's just out of curiosity's sake, let's say that Ohio State wins and Florida State wins. Who would you like in that matchup?
Oh man.
I think the Buckeyes would absolutely just kick the shit out of Florida State. I'm sorry. I do.
It'd be interesting because if Florida State plays like I think they have to play to beat Oregon, could they do that 2 weeks in a row?
First off, both teams would be coming off big upsets if they get it done.
Right.
I'm thinking Oregon's favored in that game, right? Yeah, by 9.
Yeah.
So they're both 9-point underdogs, okay? But it's too bad they don't play like a consolation game, and then it's too bad that the teams that they did play it would actually be interested in it, because I would love to beat the daylights out of Florida State. But yeah, if that happens, there's no way I pick against my Buckeyes. If the two upsets happen, the Buckeyes are your 2014 national champions, because they will destroy Florida State, just like Oregon's going to, just like Alabama would. So. Of the 4 teams involved, the one that I think has pretty much no shot at winning it is Florida State. And in 2 weeks, I'm probably looking like an idiot, but whatever.
Yeah, the team with a Heisman Trophy winner on it has no shot at winning the national championship. Sure, Greg.
Just saying.
All right. I think I would go with Ohio State, I guess.
Yeah.
Or maybe Florida State. I don't know. I think that'd be a much
be a better game. Yeah,
that's a coin flip of all the possible matchups. That is more than a coin flip than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, the better matchup, obviously, because less chance of a blowout. But
right. I mean, even if you flip the things, Florida State, Alabama, I would probably take Alabama.
Oh, absolutely.
Easy in that one.
Yeah.
And Oregon, Ohio State, I'd probably pick Oregon easily over Ohio State.
Yeah.
So
I think Ohio State would have a better chance against Oregon, but I'd still have to go with the Ducks in that one too.
Yeah,
because you got to remember, this Ohio State team, they weren't even on the radar until about a month ago. Yeah. So it's not like this is a great team. They got hot at the right time and managed to climb their way into this thing. But
yep, and props to them. But you know what? We don't have to think about these hypotheticals and what ifs and whatevers.
Nope,
because they're actually going to decide it on the field this time. That's a great leap forward in terms of our progress as college football.
Yeah, it only took how many years?
Yeah.
I think that this playoff has produced what I think has been the most fun college football season I can remember. It's been great.
We're going to have 2 national semifinals this week. I couldn't be any more excited. Play football on the field. It's a novel concept. But, I mean, there's a bunch of other bowls at that point that don't matter anymore. I still hate that they put bowls after the games that matter. It's just, who watches these games?
Well, I'll be watching Toledo and Arkansas State.
Well, of course, go Rockets.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know.
I mean, who doesn't want to go down to Mobile, Alabama January 4th? We'll look forward to the playoffs this weekend. For Greg, I'm Zach. This has been Basically a Football Show. Follow all of our platforms. Keep listening to the Basically a Podcast Network. Enjoy the playoffs.